All right, everybody, we are live. This is probably one of the most exciting interviews I have had to date. My name is Tali Rodriguez, and I am here with the Westside Promise Neighborhood Office of Civic and Community Engagement's Community Conversations. Yay! And I have someone so important in front of me. She is a leader and someone who I'm excited to talk with. So I'm going to allow you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and we will get right into the questions if that's okay.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are a dream. I'm really excited to talk about your advocacy. So, could you just remind everybody who is in our listening audience your name and the current positions that you hold both in the community and in the world?
Sure, sure. My name is Tania Mattos. I am from Bolivia. I was born in Bolivia, and I am a New York resident, currently living in Queens, New York. And I work as I'm a founding member of the Abolish ICE New York, New Jersey coalition, and also doing that full time right now. And the goal of that coalition is to end immigration detention in New York State and New Jersey. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm excited to be here and speaking with you, Talia.
I'm elated to be able to speak with you. How I came to know you and become more aware of your work was a trip that I took to California. I met someone that's working with you to document part of your journey, and I'm just like all in their face, like I want to talk to you. Tell me about what you're doing. She suggested that we connect, so I'm just really grateful for you and for your time in advance. So the next question that I have for you are, what drives your passion and service? Because as you know, we are the Office of Civic and Community Engagement, and I see your leadership as true civic engagement.
Yeah. So what drives my activities and my action and my civic work really is my own story that I think we'll mention, but that I'm part of this documentary. I'm one out of four people that talks about belonging in the U.S. and belonging in Germany. I'm obviously somebody that identifies as belonging in the United States. And so this film is going to be premiered at the World Channel on June 1st. And so, um, what you'll see, and if you're able to catch the film, which I hope you do, you're able to see my drive, which is my own story again, as being someone who grew up in New York, undocumented for a very long time. And I decided to not wait for politicians and for people to give me the permission to have some sort of relief. So I'm myself with other hundreds and thousands of people across the country, and I'm just one story, but we really fought for something called the Federal Dream Act, and then DACA, and then that sort of propelled my community work locally in my neighborhood in Queens, but also nationally and locally on the state level. And so my own story, my mother's story, my community that I see in my neighborhood of the women, immigrant women that have to work so hard um, to um, to just exist in the United States, really is what continues to drive me to today. Where today, I'm working on legislation and advocacy that would end immigration detention in New York, New Jersey. And I'm so happy to speak to the community in Buffalo because
Yeah,
you
you're
all.
famous. That's why, because you're famous. I need them to know about you.
Okay. Well, because actually, Buffalo has a big say on immigration detention in New York State, and so I'm really happy to be here and spread the word about what is happening, what is the ideas behind immigration detention in Buffalo, and how it affects Buffalo.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that we make space for each other. There are few Latinas in higher ed. And when I came to the university, my office was just really supportive in creating avenues. We have a radio station, 91.3 WBNY, which our piece will air there. But university and my office, my boss, who is an ally, was really supportive about creating opportunities for me to live out some of that advocacy that drew me to the university. So my dad's actually from New York City. My dad's from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He's from a place called Rutgers Houses. And my grandmother before that was born in Puerto Rico during a time when there were suffragists who were still active fighting for the right to vote on the island. So when I saw the director and when I Googled you and saw your work, it was a dream for me that you had accepted the invitation, because to me, part of my privilege and my responsibility of being here in higher ed is being able to bring attention to leaders like you and others like Jen Rodriguez, who's in Ohio, who I just shared her on LinkedIn today, to just be like, look at these amazing women working and how can I use my privilege to lift you up? So I think it's actually funny. Puerto Ricans were made citizens in April, but SUNY celebrates Citizenship Day in September. So that the conversation and why it's important that we use our vote and what civic engagement truly means is core to both my personal and professional work. So again, you are a dream to interview. I just wanted to be able to talk more about, you mentioned your drive and it being documented in the documentary, which I'm elated to mention, be a part of, just know about. Going forward, when you think about advocating and you think about Buffalo, are there people that you would like to collaborate with, calls to action or things that you'd want people to know about how to support you, your individual journey as a Latina New Yorker, or any of your projects?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great question. So what we're pushing for is we want to connect with different counties in the state. And specifically, we want to make more connections in Buffalo. There's some amazing organizations in Buffalo that have been so supportive of ending immigration detention statewide. We want to connect with more groups. One, because we want to talk to the politicians that represent Buffalo and get them to sign on to a bill called Dignity Not Detention. And there's a website to find out more information about the bill. And the website is nydignitynotdetention.org. That's NY, the letters NY, dignitynotdetention.org. And so folks can jump on there, take a look at what we're trying to push. There's a sign-on option for organizations. We're looking for more Buffalo organizations because the Batavia Buffalo Federal Detention Center is there, and so we have to have a conversation about immigration detention. And again, going back to what was my drive is because we just need these systems to end. Like, these systems cause so much harm to individuals that are detained, so much harm to communities, to families. They separate individuals and families from each other. And being somebody who was at risk of being detained and deported, is just something that is a huge fear in the immigrant community and in the undocumented community. Is being detained. It's almost like the like, con eso ya está, it's over. Like, so we thought, we want to get rid of these systems that really kill people. There's numerous people that have died in these facilities. And then again, it's for their immigration case. It has nothing to do with anything else. But for Buffalo, please go on the website, check it out. Please get in contact with me through that website. You can send us a message, and we'd love to collaborate with anyone who's interested to have conversations about immigration and detention in the statewide.
So, just checking in for me, why this conversation is really important is because of my identity. So, I'm biracial, and in my mother's side, her family came to the country in the 1600s. And when they did so, they came on the Mayflower, and I have these really strong, just inherent feelings about what's American. And I feel like when you disagree, or when you have, I made a statement on my personal catalog, when you have the love of liberty inside your heart and you're willing to make the journey that some of my sisters make and some of the people make to come here, I feel like you should be welcomed, and or you should be welcomed humanely. I worry about what's being taught inside the detention center. So could you talk a little bit about, and I know that wasn't one of the questions, but as an educator, for me, my concern is just the children, what they're being educated, and the equity of their experience. I just think that it's really important what you do, and I want the Latino community, specifically Puerto Ricans, to be more highly aware of how we can play a role of solidarity.
Yes, yes. Yeah, great question. So we, from our understanding, is they, especially the private facilities, there's like they're being children and specifically are being held in specific facilities that don't look like detention centers, but they are detention centers essentially. Um, and for adults, for men and women that are being held in detention, as young as super young, as 18 years old, they and sometimes I've heard of young people being, you know they're released and they're going to school, but then because something happens with their immigration case, they're sent to immigration detention. And so, what happens there is that they're being the guards, number one, are we found that there's instances where some of them are actually oath keepers or have been members of oath keepers. And oath keeper is a radical group of white nationalists that are the officers that kind of oversee the
Right,
people
you
that are
saw me turn my
detained.
head, and I was like, "Wait, what?" Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So these are the people that are overseeing, the well-being of immigrants in detention. And they're not. There is no well-being in immigration detention. I think people want to reform the immigration detention system or want to make it better, but there is no making better a jail or a prison, like because of these instances where people like the ones that I mentioned are supervising. So that's why again I turn back to we must welcome people. People are not leaving their homes for the fun of it. There's real need, and I think more rooted. I know people sometimes root like these are working people. Absolutely, people want to come and work, but I want to root them in their humanity and that these are human beings, people, families, mothers, fathers, and they're coming here for opportunity as well, or escaping something that they don't also agree with. So I think that's historically like that's always happened. But I guess it's just this moment in time. It's very difficult for all counties in New York State, Buffalo, including so many others. Um, but I think there's a lot of misinformation from the mayor of New York City, and I think there's a lot of watching the news and reading some investigations. There's a lot of anti-immigrant tactics that are being used by officials that kind of make for that miscommunication to happen across the country.
So for me, I think what you're saying is really important. I want to center on the Center for Community Media and how there's just an article that was released by, I believe, the Columbia Journal about the importance of community media in us having conversations, and in the importance of, as Latinos, being able to build empathy within our community. I think as a historian, I want to be like, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no. Like, we have a lot to talk about here because, like, no me diga, like, everybody in their communities face some type of feedback, whether that was positive or negative. I just think it's incredible how our communities forget. It's like we have this situational, just, oh, well, that wasn't what my situation was like. And I think for me, part of it also being that we have a history department here at SUNY Buffalo State University, and we also have many students who are from all over across the world. We're in 14213, which is one of the most linguistically diverse zip codes, second to Queens. Okay. And to me, it's important that our students are exposed to leaders who give them alternative perspectives of what they see of themselves in the media. The conversation, I think of myself and how they talk about, tides of people and the language, right? And how that's very deliberate, and how it humanizes us. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to put it out there.
That's a word. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's important for me, as someone who holds a lot of privilege in the Latino community, to continually have this conversation. I'm here 24/7 every single day. Like, if you look at me, see their faces, because you know what? If the history of Puerto Rico was a little bit different, you would be fighting for me. And that's why I'm like, this is what's so important. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about how encouraged I find your ability to be able to explain all of the emotion that comes behind the young people that I think we're both trying to advocate for. So looking into the future, and I know this is kind of a vague question, I asked you a little bit about what you feel like your future looks like. Tell me what it's like to be a young organizer, to have your face, be out there nationally representing yourself in your community, and kind of like where you feel like that might take you in future chapters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope just my story inspires people to fight, to continue to have hope, and that we can flip the script, right? Whatever the story that the other side is building, or whoever is the other side, like Ron DeSantis, around presenting anti-immigrant legislation, we can flip the script as young people. I think we don't have to settle for what people with power or individuals, people that we think are anti-immigrant, have planned for us. I think we can absolutely um, shift what the future looks like for us. And so, but we can't do it alone. We need allies, we need friends, we need people, and we need to remind people, like you said, of the histories of individuals that have come before us, because no one ever came the right way, per se, right? Waves of histories, if you know your history, you know that there's no right way of coming. It's just it's all politicized. And so I don't want to politicize people's humanity, and because these are individuals and humans, and thank God, you don't people who are watching or listening, if you don't have to go through this, thank goodness, and that's something I don't take for granted, for is being here, and being able to not have to escape a situation that whether it's gang violence, whether it's natural disaster, or any of the sorts. For now, I'm not escaping, but I really what the other things that I see in terms of my future is continuing to fight around, and advocate around immigration, whether that's breaking down systems that kill our folks, or harm our people, or terrorize our people, to promoting the things that we really do need. We do need immigration reform. We're just afraid of who it's going to leave out. What are the concessions that people are going to include? And so we need more people to run for office. I myself would, I myself would recommend people to really highly look into running for office. But again, just if you have a mother or father that went through this, or yourself went through this, run for office. Like that's you can influence so much in that way. And so those are my suggestions, and I hope that, again, that I just inspire people to keep going day by day.
There's something about your face. There's something the way you look at the camera that says, I'm unafraid. So just to circle back, like there is a part, and you make me braver, right? Because I have conversations where people look at me and they're like, why are you bringing this up? It's my privilege. It's my responsibility. Again, my mother's family came here in the 1600s. Some of them later came as Sicilians who were undocumented. And when I found the paperwork and I was talking to mommy was like, no. And I was like, mira, dije aquí que Ancestry.com says you're fronted, ma. So
Right,
I
right.
think for me, part of this conversation has been part of my own awareness of what privilege and being biracial and having these
Yeah.
places in two different communities has meant. And I think
Mhm,
lifting up women and people like you will be
mhm.
my continual commitment. So,
Thank
of course, with the women and the people who are listening to you right now, who are inspired, right? And they're either thinking, I have a story to tell, whether it's topic area of what we're discussing or something else that they would want to share. And I know this wasn't a scripted question, but like, what advice would you give them about just being authentic and remaining transparent? Because it's so easy to like sugarcoat your story sometimes. But for
you.
me,
Mhm,
I try to really give the
mhm.
detail so that people can
Yeah.
see me like I am.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, I mean, for the Buffalo audience, like, there's a group called Justice for Migrants West New York, that is incredible. They welcome, recently arrived people. They advocate for people inside of detention. They advocate for so much. Even when people get out of detention, there's like a stop, um, some kind of like a little corner that they drop people at, a convenience store, and so they're trying to, they do a lot of advocacy work, which is incredible with the small staff they have. But again, volunteer with them. I adore them. And in getting your story out, I think, join organizations like Justice for Migrants West New York. You never know where it can lead you. I think it's just putting yourself out there and just opening yourself up to the world and saying, I want to put my story out there. I want to talk about the issue that is very important to me. You will find your crowd. You will find your people. Even if it's a small group, like you're not alone. You're not alone in how you feel, in your concerns, and it's just finding your tribe and making sure that you tell your story, because the strength is in your story. The strength in changing the world is in your story and your efforts. And so I think together, or I'm a huge believer in organizing. I think I've seen it move mountains. I've seen it really be incredible and incredible work. I think, I've seen the impossible happen, and I've seen the script be flipped. People had it one way, but we did it another way because people, like ordinary people, were just, took one step forward. Even though you're afraid, I've been afraid plenty of times, but you know, I don't feel afraid when I have maybe one or two people next to me. And so, like I said, try to find your tribe out there. There's so many groups out there that are working on, whether it be environmental, criminal justice, immigration, so many issues, women's issues, uh, just finding your tribe and going forward.
So, and just as we close in the last 4 minutes, for me, I think you are a constant reiteration to me that I'm part of a larger community of people
Mhm.
who are willing to use their voice. I want to say that one of the things that my mother taught me is like one of the most American things you can do is disagree with everyone in the room and be like, no, I think this, right? And I think of my family who fought in the Civil War. I actually wrote my upcoming column on my great uncle who passed at the Battle of Dallas in Atlanta, and
Mhm.
he walked from Horseheads, New York. So I think for
Mhm.
me, right, in the Civil War, I think for me, what it means to be an American and what it means to support people in their pursuit of liberty is really, to me, a privilege to build on what some of my ancestors have done to
Mhm.
create unity. Because I think that's really what it's
Mhm.
about. Like, you can pull anyone from any part of the world, and if you sit them down and ask them what are the top three things they just want a better life for their kids. I feel like that's number one. Everybody wants
Mhm.
that. And
Mhm.
then two is like peace, and safe and quiet, and the sovereignty over their body, right? That I think is really important and fundamentally one of the American
Mhm.
parts of the experience. So just remind everybody, because I follow you, I like try not to fangirl you. I've tried to be very calm and not scream because I do a lot of screaming, right? I'm easily wound up. Um, if you could remind people where to follow you, if you're open to them following you, on social media, and then kind of
Mhm.
where, if just want to remind folks where they can hear the rest of your story. And, I just find you incredibly motivating and brave. And like I said, there's just something about your photo that just you're staring in the camera like, vamos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I am unafraid. And I just think it's the most New York thing I've ever seen. So just remind them where to follow you and how they can stay in touch with your journey.
Sure, sure. So I do hope that people do watch the premiere of From Here, which is a documentary that I'm in. I'm one of the protagonists. There's three more that have incredible stories as well. You can go, if you want to watch the movie, the documentary. You can go on the World Channel, online. Or you can watch it on your TV, but it's worldchannel.org if you want to catch it online. It'll be available until the end of August. So please check that out. Um, I'm not being biased. I guess I'm a little biased, but I think it's a pretty incredible documentary. It's very beautifully done. Yeah, I get a little shy and actually seeing my face,
I'm like, y'all
all
have won awards. I went to your website. I was like, there's a list of awards already, and I'm so
right.
excited.
Right. Yes, we have won awards. Human Rights Watch Award for film, for best film, and so many others. But I hope people do get a chance to watch it. And then to follow me personally, you can definitely follow me on my social media on Instagram. It is Tania Matos, TaniaMattos, and the number one at the very end. Not very creative Instagram, but it works. And on Twitter, you can find me at Tania with 5 A's at the end. So please keep in touch, send me a message. I love to connect with people about what the work that they're doing, or if how I can support them in their work, or how we can collaborate. So especially Buffalo folks, I really want to talk to you. I very, very much about grassroots, going block to block or community to community to talk about these issues. So please get in touch with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for providing that. I follow you, so if you all follow me, I will definitely link the World Channel, remind folks of when the premiere is coming. We'll make sure that we share that on campus. And I just want to say, my grandma marched with Martin Luther King. She was at the I Have a Dream speech with my dad. She took a school bus from public housing, Rutgers houses, down to DC. And I feel like people have this
Mhm.
idea that, you have to be a special type of person to change the world. And if my abuela taught me anything, she had a third grade education. She did not read in English. It's that regular people change the world. The
100%.
bravery of
Mhm.
regular women,
Mhm.
abuelas, tias. And I always say,
Mhm.
when they went to go march, they went to public housing during the day. They didn't swing by Sears. My abuela
Yeah.
was unemployed. She was home with 8
Wow.
children, right? And
Wow.
Tanya, I've told this story. She didn't have a backup plan. My dad was there. So if things didn't go well for her and her church, there was no one to go get her 6 kids. But I think
Mm.
for me, she saw suffragists fight in Puerto Rico for the right to vote for women.
Yeah.
I see you standing in her legacy. So she's passed
Mm.
on, but I know that you're the type of person that she's taught me to support. And I'm just so grateful for
Mm.
you continuing her work, because I think that this is part of the larger conversation for civil rights. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for just even talking with me. And I'm going to fangirl you. I'm going to send you links. I'm going to share this everywhere. But thank you for the bravery of speaking on behalf of thousands of people too, because that's not an easy thing to do.
Thank you, Talia. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the film, and we'll be in touch.